channel Pyramid Times. Myself Veena Suruvu, Creative Director at Pyramid Times. We have with us wonderful guest Purandev Kaur. She is a best-selling author, a speaker, a thought leader, and also a channel who helps people answer life's biggest questions. Her book, Ali and Me, The Integration of Spirit and Form, offers poignant insight into healing and the afterlife. Through her online courses and various community platforms, she helps people connect to the spirit world to heal grief, live their life's true purpose, and create life they love. Welcome, Purandev Kaur. And also we have with us Nithya, who is a holistic healer, IT professional, and also a mother, and also a best-selling author. So with this, we are discussing on the book Purandev has written, Ali and Me. Over to you, Nithya.
Hi, thank you, Veena, for having me today, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity. I've been reading this amazing book called Ali and Me. And before we get into the book, let me start with, how is your name so Indian? How did you get the name Purandev Kaur?
That is a great question. So I started my spiritual journey several years back, and I got really deep into the lineage of Kundalini Yoga. And I started teaching it. I got trained to teach it. And as part of that process, I was initiated into my spiritual name, which is Purandev Kaur. So it's in the Gurmukhi language, and I actually talk about it in the very beginning of my book. I share a memory of when I received my spiritual name because it was very meaningful to me to receive that name. And I shared it with my sister, Allie. And so that memory is actually one of the first parts of the book.
That is so nice to hear. And a spiritual name, right? A different concept. So if you look at your book, it's about the afterlife. It's, an area where not many people venture. What prompted you to write this book about the afterlife?
There's a lot of reasons I wrote this book. I feel like this book it's very multifaceted. It has so many messages that I really felt, because of my experience, were so important to share with the world. So I lost my sister Allie in 2015 in a hiking accident. She was 20 years old. She was studying abroad in New Zealand, and she took a fall. And, obviously that was a very powerful and pretty difficult experience for my whole family to go through. My sister and I were very close, even though she was about 5 years younger than me. And after she passed, she came to me several times and started talking to me just as clearly as I'm talking to you right now. And she said to me we were going to write a book together, and that book was going to provide people with information about the afterlife. And one of the biggest things that she really wanted, one of the biggest reasons she wanted us to write this book together, was because she wanted to alleviate the fear that so many people have about the afterlife and about the process of dying. And, it's a really loaded subject, and there's a lot of unknown surrounding it, and there's a lot of fear for many people. And so that was one of the main reasons she wanted us to write this book together, to kind of dispel these fears and to show people, yes, there is a loving source that guides us during our lives in physical form and afterwards, and that the learning never stops even after we transition, and that we are just so guided. And then she provided a lot of information, specific information about the afterlife as well.
That sounds so amazing, and I'm so sorry for your loss, but it is so nice to hear that she's still there and guiding you, and also the concept of death. So can you talk about, is death just a choice for each of us?
Yeah, so this is talked about in the book too, in Allie's portion of the book. part of what she talks about is how we are the creators of our entire life experience. We not only create our lives when we're here in human bodies, but we choose our bodies and our life circumstances before we incarnate, before we're born. And part of that process, and this is how powerful we are, right? Like, this is how powerful we are as creators. We create different possibilities and timelines of when we can leave the physical body. So that is talked about in the book as well. It's all our creation. So we create like the creator that created us. And, you know, when you realize that fact, it's so empowering. And it can also be really scary to realize just how powerful we are. To have that much power, you know, comes with a lot of responsibility, and it's not the way that we're used to thinking about ourselves. And it's not the way we're taught to think about ourselves. We're taught to see ourselves as kind of just going through life, and life is happening to us rather than we are actively co-creating life.
That is really amazing. I think amazing words, and I've seen that too, how we co-create life and how the universe supports us in all our creations. So can you just talk a little more about the same statement that you'd mentioned, that you're more afraid when you know your light, you know, you're more afraid of your goodness than the darkness.
Yes, this is such a important thing, I think, and it's something I think that all of us can relate to. You know, there's a quote out there, I think it's Marianne Williamson, that said, we are more afraid of our light than our darkness. And it's so true. I think that when you really realize how powerful you are, it means you have to take responsibility for all the choices you've made and for what you've created in your life so far. And, you know, for that can be difficult. And, you know, I can certainly relate to that. I think all of us can relate to that in our human experience. But I think coming face to face with our own power and our own creativity and how powerful we are powerful enough to have created these bodies, to have chosen, to have incarnated. And I think that that's part of what we're doing here, is learning our own creative power. You know, I talk about in the book that the creator and the created are one. And there's a Hindu chant that I talk about in the book that is about wholeness. And so even when you take that really wholeness is our truth. And that's a big part of the book too, is overcoming this illusion of duality. So we come into this world and, you know, we feel so separate, and we feel like we're not one with other people. We're in these separate bodies, and what we do doesn't affect anyone else. And really nothing could be further from the truth. So part of the whole journey, and really the book is set up as a journey. Like my sister went on the journey to New Zealand, like we come on a journey from spirit into form, and then from form back to spirit. It's all a journey of realizing that it's really one. We're all one.
That's so amazing. When you said the creator and we are one, it was really, really empowering to hear. And I've also, you know, kind of known that. I feel everyone knows that somewhere. So your book talks a lot about truth and how to get to the awareness. So can you talk more about beingness, which also you have talked a lot about in your book?
Yes, that's a really big, crucial part of the book as well. It is talked about a lot in the book, and it's such an important aspect, I think, for all of us to remember, especially in these times that we're living in. And we're living in some pretty, you know, unprecedented times in our world right now. And part of what I realized after losing my sister was how transient everything is, and how everything outside of us is constantly changing. Our bodies are constantly changing. The world is constantly changing. Everything in the whole universe is continuously changing, at least in the world of form. But when you look at the things that don't change, it's love. Love is eternal. And that's something that my sister said to me and continues to say to me again and again, is that love is always there. Presence is always there. Connection is always there. And these are the things that are, this is truth, right? And in the book, it talks about Maya, illusion, and how we're surrounded by illusion. And illusion is not, Maya is not a bad thing. There's beauty in the illusion. But it's really important to realize that that's what it is. And we can get really caught up and attached to these things that are illusions and forget the truth that is unchanging, that is oneness and love.
That is so amazing. The truth is always oneness and love. So when I was reading your book, there was one statement that caught me. It says, "Do not fight against the ego. Welcome it instead with open arms." That sounded so lovely. Can you talk more about that?
Yes. So the ego, I feel like, is something that can get kind of a bad rep. But the ego is not a bad thing. The ego is just the part of us that is like a constellation of our ideas about who we are. It's like our story. But on the other hand, we need to have an ego to live here on the earth. If we didn't have an ego, we would just be back to the oneness that we came from. So our egos allow us to have an experience of being an individual in the world. So it's a really important thing, and it's not something to try to get rid of or to shame. I like to think of the ego as kind of like our inner child in a way. It fears change. So change is really hard for the ego. The ego likes things to stay the same. But again, like we talked about, everything in the world is constantly changing. So it becomes this practice, and it's an ongoing practice of opening up to your ego and realizing when it needs comfort, like a child. If a child came to you and was crying and scared, you wouldn't shame the child. You would comfort the child and tell it it's going to be okay. That's how I think about our ego, as just that part of ourselves that needs comfort.
Yes, Purandev, you told very well. So I have a question, like, why do we at all incarnate? Is there a purpose assigned to us, or why do we come here to planet Earth?
Why do we come here to planet Earth? I think we come here to planet Earth for the joy of it. And I talk about that in my book too. I mean, it's multi-layered. We choose to come here. Above all, we have free will. The Creator gave us free will. If we didn't have free will, we wouldn't have the opportunity to learn lessons. It would be like the teacher giving you the answers to a test before you even had the chance to learn them on your own. So we choose to come here. We choose to go through these experiences in our lives in order to learn soul lessons and to grow. And sometimes it can be hard to realize that. Sometimes, your ego might think, well, why would I want to learn these lessons? If you've gone through really hard things in your life, and, to some extent, all of us have, you might think, why would I choose to go through this? I mean, I thought that. Why would I choose to lose my sister? Why would I agree in a soul contract to lose her? And in moments of meditation, and when I'm really deeply connecting to my heart and to my sister, I do understand that from a higher perspective, my soul knew that that was exactly the experience it needed in order to learn and grow. So when you're looking at from that perspective, from that expanded perspective, it makes a lot more sense.
That was so lovely. And just as you're talking about your sister, there was one more thing in your book that, caught my attention. It was about twin flames, and you'd given a very different perspective. Now, there are a lot of myths and, a lot of people not understanding that concept, and I've seen people going mad with that concept. So can you like burst out those myths for us?
Yes, that was another concept that my sister wanted to provide a little bit of clarity on. And she, while I was writing the book, part of what she said is there's a lot of misinformation out there about twin flames. And I think one of the most commonly misheld perceptions about twin flames is that they have to be romantically involved. And my sister was saying that's just not true. So my sister and I are twin flames. And in the context that she was speaking about it, she said, you don't have to be romantically involved to be twin flames. You could have a twin flame who was a friend, a coworker, a sibling, a parent. Basically, in essence, a twin flame is a very close soul relationship that you have with someone who you carry out work together in the world that is for the highest good, that is for the collective growth and for the collective consciousness of humanity. So in that context, twin flames are people who are working together to elevate the consciousness of the planet.
Yeah, I think that was lovely. So, you know, anyone who helps elevate the consciousness of the planet with you could be your twin flame.
Right.
Yep. That was really nice to hear, different from all the things we've been reading and going through that.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question we have is, whom do you think your book can help? Who are the target audience for your book?
That's a great question. When I wrote this book, I intended that it was for everyone. That it would be accessible to all of humanity, no matter, where you're at on your journey. And I think there's concepts in this book that are universal, especially the concept of healing from grief and loss. And, we talked a little bit about this. Everyone has an experience of grief and loss, no matter if you've lost someone close to you or not. We all go through grief. We all go through loss. And, when you look at what's happening in the world right now, there's so much change. There's people are having to shift so radically in their lives. And there's grief that comes from that. There's grief that life won't be the same as it was before. And so I think that, like I said, the concepts in this book are really universal. I think it's definitely for people who have been through the loss of a loved one. It's for people who are curious about the afterlife, and it's for everyone in between. It was written for everyone to really send that message, which I feel like is so important for humanity to know right now, is that we are so guided and so loved, and that really there's nothing to fear about the transition of death.
Yes, I think this book will definitely help each and everyone to recognize their spirit and also the matter they are in. So can you, does your sister speak about the afterlife also, the other side, how the life is about?
Yeah, that's the second portion of the book. She talks about things like soulmates. She talks about the process that we go through of incarnating into physical form. She talks about how we actually do choose all of our circumstances. And she actually talks about the dying process. And she talks about what that process is and what it looks like from a spiritual perspective. And at the end of her portion of the book, she gives a very specific exercise you can use to connect with your loved ones who have passed on.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think we have many people, I think not only this lifetime, we have lived across lifetimes, and definitely we have so many loved ones. I was just going through my own life visions recently. I could feel, okay, I have to live a wonderful life, very intimate life with closed ones. I do reconnect with it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it just gives a sense of, they've never departed from you. They're always there for you. And there's a way to access them too. And through the channeling, your book is also a guide to start channeling and to get the concept. So that was lovely too. The The next question that I have is another profound statement in your book, and I was reading, as I was reading it, there's so many profound statements in your book. Like literally every paragraph is very profound. But there was one thing that again caught my attention, where you'd written about the creator. He's not thinking about the end product, but he's rather completely observed in the process itself. Could you talk more about that?
Yes, I really resonate still with that concept. I love that concept because it's so true. All of us are creators, and we are created in the image and likeness of the creator who created us. And when we are creating in our lives from a place of love and joy and freedom and the exhilaration that comes through being able to create, then what we create is so pure, and it just becomes this really organic, beautiful process. When we start to get a little up in our heads about what we're creating, or judge it, or feel like we're not worthy, or question our creation, that's when that creative process starts to feel a little stifled, at least in my own experience. And I think what we're really here to do is to create and to learn our own divine creative power to do that, like the creator. And it goes back to what we said earlier, creator and created are one. So we're here to create in joy and love like the creator. And we were created from that vibration of pure love from the creator. Like the creator wasn't like feeling obligated to create us. The creator wasn't like feeling, a sense of heaviness, or like the creator had to do it. It was like it came from this very pure vibration of pure love. That's the vibration we were created from.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear. And you talked about children too, right? And
yes.
And somehow when we grow up, we do lose some of those vibrations with which we were created for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So what else do you think that, your book can give us? We talked a little about beingness, the crux, and how it's for everyone. But what more do you think that we can get from your book?
Well, there's so much richness there. I think some of the biggest things are letting go of the fear of change and of death. And, the end of the book does talk about reincarnation and how regardless of what your belief systems are, this is, and I say this in the book, this is one perspective. And, I want people to read the book and take what fits for them and leave what doesn't, but it does talk about reincarnation, and it talks about how our souls continue on this never-ending journey. And it's so beautiful because it never ends. It's completely ongoing and eternal. And so are we. We are eternal. It's not like once we die, it's like the consciousness is gone. And I think it's here to offer us hope. And I think it's here to help us remember what we already know deep down.
Those are amazing words. Remember what you know deep down. It would be so different if everyone could remember that, and it could be a different world. So,
yeah.
Is there anything to share, Purandev, that I could ask?
I'm really
to the viewers.
I think I just want to say I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and I feel like this book is really here to help usher us into this next age of consciousness that we're all going to. There's really no debate about that. It's happening and it's here. So let's help each other and lift each other up to make that shift as gracefully and as easily as we all can.
Exciting time. Right now, exciting times for change.
Yes.
Yes, it truly is. With this, I would like to conclude this session. So this book provides a lot of insights about reincarnation, how afterlife is, and what is the process of death, and what will happen around it, and what is the guidance that we could receive from the other realms, spirit realms. and how we can connect and be in that connection, how we can channel. She herself is a channel, and she also offers a lot of workshops on channeling and also other workshops. You can get in touch for the details in the description below this video. And definitely we are looking to hear from Purandev more and more. Thank you so much, Purandev. Thank you so much, Nithya, for this wonderful interview and the questions. And a lot of insights were thrown around this book. And also specifically, there are important points like twin flames. If you want to know in depth what exactly are the twin flames. And likewise, there are many terminology which we would have mistaken previously, but this book definitely provides a light for each and every one of us on the spiritual path or in general. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.